welcome to my podcast. So, one day, a few months ago, I was listening to another podcast, because that is like 75% of what I do, and the guest on that show was talking about Tombstone and how it was his favorite movie. He talked about a phenomenon that I don't think exists anymore, which is home video with no consumer retail release. Some movies would only have releases that were specifically for purchase by businesses, and that is how he bought Tombstone on VHS for over $100 in the 90s. So that sparked a memory for me because I had personally encountered this phenomenon in the 90s when I tried to get a VHS copy of 1989's The Punisher at like $130, I think. Over a decade passed before I did get my consumer release copy of the movie, not at $130. But this movie came out at a strange time. Studios had realized that there was a possibility of making money off of popular comic book IPs, but they were gun-shy about investing the money to see the return. This resulted in a bunch of bad TV and budget movie productions like Roger Corman's $1 million Fantastic Four movie, Albert Pune's $3 million Captain America movie, and the previously discussed Dr. Mordred, which was a Doctor Strange movie that existed in production limbo long enough to lose its IP licensing. And then there's 1989's The Punisher. At $9 million, this was the blockbuster of the bunch, even seeing a theatrical release internationally, and unlike the other films that I had mentioned, The Punisher may actually be good? Maybe. Today we're going to talk it out with my esteemed guest, one half of the Book Club for Movies podcast. Please welcome Ryan Miller. How goes it, my parasocial friend?
Pretty good, man. Yeah, it's the normal story. You meet somebody on Twitter, they're a great person, you have a good time, and you end up, doing a podcast together. Ye oldie story. So
you're such a sweet man. But yes, that is the old story. I have lots of Twitter friends that are from the podcast community because we share this love of talking, getting attention. I don't know.
Yep,
Is it attention when nobody listens to some of these episodes? I don't know.
Wow. It's like you're a member of Book Club for Movies.
I am. That's why I'm on the Patreon. I'm a member of Book Club for Movies.
That is true. Extended thanks, especially to you. This is how it goes. You give us money, and then we come and do whatever you want.
And you come and be my friend. Yay.
Yes. Hey, I would do that for free.
Oh, you're so sweet. So Ryan, what did you think? Or actually, before that, what is your experience with Punisher 1989?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I saw it once before because I did remember Louis Gossett Jr. That was maybe the one thing I could tell you about it. And that turned out to be true, luckily. I was afraid that I would go to watch it and then it would, he would not be in there. And I'd be like, well, great, what movie am I thinking about? And I'd spend the rest of my life trying to figure it out. But he was and is still in that movie and is... Can I say it already? Maybe the best part?
He is easily the best part of the movie. Although, I will say right now, I like the movie. So that's...
Yeah.
It's a little bit high praise.
Well, yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the others because in my, I guess, limited scope of view, I had always considered this to be one of the three. In fact, I never heard of Dr. Mordred. I remember now you mentioning that before, so I need to go back. Somehow I heard of it and then missed that it was also a Doctor Strange, at least partway through production. So
yeah, it's a 90s TV movie. If you've ever seen a 90s TV movie, then you'll know what you're in for. It's like watching, I don't know, like 90210, but with magic.
As if that show wasn't magic already. But yeah, so I had always put this in that group with, Captain America, which strangely I have seen very recently. I did an Albert Pune kind of double, almost triple feature for the show that didn't kind of pan out yet anyway. But recently saw Captain America for the first time, and I do still have queued that Roger Corman Fantastic Four, but I've watched the documentary about it. I don't know if you've seen that, The Doomed.
I remember when it came out. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the Corman Fantastic Four movie either.
Okay,
I've only seen Pune's Captain America once.
Right, okay. So, hey, we're exactly on the same page here. So, yeah, I had always put this in league with that. But you're right, man. This is not really in league with those other, certainly not the Fantastic Four movie, which I haven't seen but know enough about. But even with Captain America, which I had fun with still, Punisher's a good movie, strangely enough.
Yeah, it's shocking. I know it's shocking. It's
It is.
it's an actual crime drama. Like, it tries to be a crime drama. That's what it's going for. Like, a very stylistic, very 90s crime drama. But, like, I like this. Like, going back, I didn't think I'd remembered that the script was decent, but it's got a really decent script. It has interesting characters.
Yep.
It tries to create some pathos. And the only shortcoming, beyond it being a 90s movie and having the style of a 90s movie for me, is Dolph Lundgren as the Punisher. But I like their take on the Punisher a lot. Like, I think that their presentation of the Punisher as a mentally ill person is probably the most spot-on version of that mentally ill Frank Castle, up until John Barenthal's take on the character.
Okay, which is the take I'm least familiar with, actually. So,
yeah, no, he's awesome, but his Punisher is crazy, but not even in this fashion. I think that this take justifies, because Frank Castle's not really, he's barely an anti-hero in this movie. He's just a crazy person.
Yep.
Like, and that's what I glommed onto when I first saw the movie, but also, like, it's a decent crime drama in addition to them portraying Frank Castle as a madman. And that, and the 2 seconds that you get to see Lou Gossett, like he has this monologue in the middle of the movie that is, like, from a completely different movie. He's good. And there are other good actors in the movie,
when
but
they're like
Lou Gossett is good. And, yeah. So even going back to this, I was impressed by the Punisher '89 movie, and another reason that I was inspired to do this episode and talk about this movie is this Comic Scene Quarterly from 1989, actually, or maybe 1990. But this has an interview with Dolph Lundgren talking about his experience with this movie, and he thought that this movie was going to make him, like, a legitimate actor. So I find all that very interesting.
Yeah, that is. I mean, I love Dolph. Like,
me too.
Dolph all the time.
I saw Red Scorpion fairly recently. It's terrible.
Is that on my? Oh no, Red Sonja is on my list. I don't know if I've seen Red Scorpion, but
it's another '80s military guy action movie, and it's problematic in certain ways, and there's, like, South African money behind it. So Dolph's like, yeah, I'm kind of distancing myself from, because, you know, apartheid South Africa. I'm distancing myself from this movie. But yeah, it's.
But everything you've said makes me believe that he would be in it, even if I didn't know that ahead of time. Because I mean, this movie was kind of made for him, I feel like, in a way. Back to the Punisher 1989. I could see maybe you watch a single clip from it and you're like, well, he seems kind of flat, maybe, you know. I think he was tailor-made for this thing if this thing wasn't tailor-made for him. I like him in this. It might have been, gosh, I don't want to say this is his best movie, but if you're going to criticize him for maybe some of that flat affect, you know, put him in a Punisher movie where it really plays. Like, it super plays in this one, you know?
It works well enough because of the crazy person aspect, and I do dig that. I still think that Rocky IV is his best movie, not necessarily because of Dolph, but his, right. You know, it's a great, maybe the greatest 80s movie as far as representing the style and feel of the 80s, and he got to be a part of it. So
yeah, fair, true. As far as, because he's definitely at the center of this movie. This is his vehicle, even though he might have the least amount of lines. You know, he's kind of Mad Maxing his way through the whole thing. But that might actually be a pretty good comparison. Also. Yeah. Does he have any? Maybe this is my fault. I don't know enough about Dolph. Does he have any other movies where he's, like, front and center? I know he's some of his recent stuff. In fact, I want to see his most recent Universal Soldier. I've heard isn't bad. You know.
So there are a lot of movies that were straight to video. I think that Dolph was front and center. And there were a couple movies around this time where they tried to have Dolph be the lead, including Masters of the Universe. But
oh right, gosh, I'm an idiot. This is why did you even invite me on this Masters? I haven't even seen it, and I know, you know. So
it's not good. It's not a good He-Man movie.
Are you sure? I've heard a lot about it.
There's a lot of people that love it. There's a lot of people that love it, but I watched it a couple of years ago, and I did not enjoy my time with it.
Okay, all right. Well,
it's silly fun in a way that you're like, this is stupid, ha 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 ha, but it's not a good movie.
Okay.
Most movies like that are worth seeing, with a couple beers or whatever. So I'm not saying that you should never see it, but it's not a good movie.
Okay. I will see it. Let's just say I have a tendency to over-appreciate films here and there. So I'll be looking forward to it either way, I think. But I don't mind him in this thing. Like, I really like him in this thing, actually, I'll say. And overall, I think you're right. It's a good movie, but also almost for its flaws in a way. Speaking of over-appreciating something, maybe, like...
Oh, I 100% feel that I'm probably an over-appreciator of this movie. I like the style of it. I like the style a lot. Goons in big shoulder pads. There's a bunch of voice performances in this movie that sound like they were given by actual voice actors. Like, these guys are like doing cartoony, like big deliveries that I really appreciate. Just a good time. Like, I had just a good time generally with it. And the score is one of my all-time favorite 90s movie scores.
Oh, I kind of flew by it. I didn't really...
It sounds like Gershwin or TWX and 12 Bars, which was the theme song for Wall Street Week. And there's no reason that you should know what that is. But yeah, it's like big city guys with big shoulder pad score. And it's one of my favorites. Actually, when I was in high school, I did this presentation in English class where you had to be creative, and so I used this score and sounds from the movie as like the backing for this presentation that I was doing. Dennis Dreeth is the composer. He's mostly like a conductor for other people's scores, but he did this and like a few other things for actual movie scores.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't have much about the score, but I did have written down that I think the budget shows in as much as it's a really good sound just overall. I mean, there's a little bit of Foley, there's a little bit of location, but it's all mixed really well. None of it sounds, because, again, I don't want to maybe mention Captain America too much, but that doesn't sound particularly good on top of other things. This sounds like any other movie you might have picked up at the time, or even it just sounds good, I guess.
I actually couldn't hear Captain America's score beyond the rubber ears, so I'll have to take your word for it.
Oh my gosh. You're never prepared even for a lifetime of hearing about that movie, just exactly what it is when you watch it.
I think it's amazing that somebody can create a $3 million movie and actually release it as an, like, not like Clerks or something, but an actual like action movie that's filmed on location somewhere. Like, J.D. Salinger's son probably took, I don't know, $10,000 as his pay or whatever, and then never did a movie again. That's a special movie. It's not good, and I won't go back to it over and over again, but that's a special production.
But it's kind of what you expect back then. And again, maybe this is just, I could be wrong. Like, when you hear about comic book movies back then, you think about those movies, you think you're going to get a production kind of like Captain America. Like, oh, nobody's going to take this seriously. Stan Lee's off yelling in a corner somewhere probably. But Punisher, somebody got somebody to take this thing seriously, and it shows, strangely enough. It reminds me, speaking of that magazine you held up, you had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the movie on there too,
which is a great movie.
It's a fantastic movie. It's better than it has any right to be. I wouldn't say this is as good as that, but same thing. Like, this is better than it has any right to be. Somebody figured out that the answer wasn't rubber ears. I mean, the Punisher Dolph doesn't even have the skull shirt, right? They just put him in some rockin' leather. And I really dug the costuming for everybody in this. Actually, the homeless guy I loved. He's even got like
Shakes.
The pop collar. Yeah, is he from the comics? I couldn't.
No,
remember exactly.
They didn't want to do microchip for whatever reason. They were like, I guess we need some comic relief. Let's do.
That's what it
Shakes.
was, right? Okay, yeah. No,
yeah, the costuming was awesome. Like, some of the stuff that Lady Tanaka wore, just like,
also,
who are you flossing for?
I mean, she goes full on geisha by the end. She's the whole final fight.
That
Spoiler,
scene
I guess.
was crazy. Like who are you being exotic for? Like she's doing like a dance, and the daughter's like doing calligraphy or something, and it's like, is this just to show that you're like an alien or whatever 90s disturbing 90s thing drove this scene to be in this movie?
You know, she had some organizational issues, I'm gonna say, because her entire army was like this top tier samurai getup, and they last about 5 seconds when he walks in the door with those guns. It was a real, like any other movie would have been like, okay, here goes the action. Which, ask me about the action in a second, but here goes the action.
So the final
set
gauntlet
piece.
is awesome to me. Like there's two things I remember from the final gauntlet.
Yeah.
And we could save most of it for later, but my favorite scene in the movie, I don't know why this is, the one that stuck with me is just Dolph Lundgren casually walking down the hallway and pulling out a butterfly knife and stabbing a dude through the paper wall, and the dude falls out of the wall. Yeah, that is stuck with me for years. But while the entire thing's
bathed in red, right? The thing looks pretty good too. I totally dug that end sequence. Yeah, the whole... the fact it's probably a filter, I don't know if they're using actual red lights in there, but they could be. They had the budget, it turns out, but
as long as Dolph only took like 100,000 for his role, and
I wonder. Do we know how much he got paid for this thing?
I don't know. Probably not. Like he probably took, because when he talks about it in this magazine, he's really hyped on this. He's like, this is gonna make me, is what he's thinking. Not knowing that it won't be released domestically, and that, like he did a bunch of his own stunts too. That scene in the last gauntlet where he fights the two large henchmen was all like him in real time, and he's like, I would feel bad to ask these guys to hold their punches because they are professionals. They do these roles in Japanese movies, and so he's like, I just let them hit me.
Okay, that sounds like Dolph.
There's a scene where he, maybe it was one where he dropped off the pier or whatever, but he's like, I was having a bad day, so I was like, I'll do this stunt. And then he's like, I looked down at the drop and I was like, man, I am really stupid. But I appreciate that. Appreciate all that. So, I don't know, have you ever heard of the director of this before, Mark Goldblatt?
I'm so glad you asked, because I can't not look that stuff up. I when we do book club for movies, I hijack the whole beginning of the show with that stuff. I feel like I can feel Matt, my co-host, like trying to actually start while I'm like, did you know what happened back in 1989? But yes, I did have to look up Mark Goldblatt, and I want to know what you're going to tell me, but also, should we have done Dead Heat? Is that should I watch Dead Heat? Because it seems amazing.
So I have honestly never seen Dead Heat, and which is funny to me because I was a big Joe Piscopo fan as a child for whatever reason.
Right.
He had a comedy album that I listened to a bunch of times where he and Eddie Murphy did like a Honeymooners rap as Ralph and wow. Ed or whatever. But it was. I'm sure it was very funny, and R.I.P. Treat Williams.
Right, Treat Williams. I mean, the cast is nuts.
Yeah. But beyond Dead Heat, this guy was mostly a second unit director. He was a second unit director on RoboCop, is what I saw.
Oh, okay.
So he's kind of in that same area that the composer Dennis Dreeth lives in, where they thought they were going to get their big break here or whatever.
Well, I think he probably, I like how we're just going to guess our way through this. Maybe I'm going to guess my way through it. I think he might have been an editor of some note. It might be what we're looking at here. That too. Did you look at his filmography there?
I looked at his filmography, and I just grabbed a few things that I thought were interesting. And for me, the most interesting thing was the fact that he was a second unit director on RoboCop. And, of course, Dead Heat and The Punisher. Yeah. And I think the only movies he has director credits on are Dead Heat and The Punisher.
Yeah, apparently he did some TV for still a fantastic TV show. I don't know if you've ever seen Erie, Indiana.
I remember Erie, Indiana, and I don't think I watched it. I think when Erie, Indiana came out, I was an out and about guy.
Yeah, it was towards the end. I remember. I think I lost. In fact, I think it only goes for like 2 seasons, and by the end of the first season, I was quote unquote too old, doing whatever I was doing. So, but no, Goldblatt, as far as editing goes, for a second I thought you were going to mention Enter the Ninja. Who wouldn't? But
Oh wow, yeah, I did not grab that.
The Terminator, First Blood Part 2, Commando, Nightbreed, Predator 2, Terminator 2, The Last Boy Scout, Super Mario Brothers.
Good lord.
He's everywhere on the Showgirls, Starship Troopers, and again, I know editing credits. You never know. There's a few in here that are like edited by, and I'm like, I don't know, like how you want to. Armageddon, Pearl Harbor. So he met what's his face at some point. Bad Boys 2. Triple X, State of the Union, X-Men: The Last Stand. I've never heard of that movie. Does that exist? Not as far as I can remember. So yeah, I'm guessing he made his bones. Terrible. Yeah.
I'm joking that there's some good X-Men movies.
If you haven't seen X-Men 3, you might be tempted to say they're all equally terrible until you watch.
No,
X-Men
I've
3.
seen X-Men 3. Okay. I think X-Men 3 is actually better than some of the more recent entries in the canon. So
you know that would be a fun discussion. I've recently walked in the room and my daughter's been going through. My daughter and my wife been going through the X-Men movies again, and I think they just got up to Dark Phoenix. I feel like when I walked in was on the screen, so I would be interested to ask them that same question. Hey, Dark Phoenix or Last Stand?
3, yeah.
So,
but in addition to that, it was written by Boaz Yankin, who wrote Now You See Me, and I think he may be a Hollywood writer of note beyond that, but that's the one that stuck out to me, that he wrote Now You See Me and did a very decent job here, and of course with Now You See Me. Some of the people in this movie, Jerome Crabb as Gianni Franco, I thought he was great.
Yeah.
Like the cultured new breed of Italian mafioso. I thought that was a really interesting dynamic where he's like, no, this is a new era. We're going to be a new, more like a business, because that was also part of the zeitgeist at the time. We're going to run the mafia like a business. No more of this brutal stuff.
Yeah, I guess that was kind of coming into vogue maybe around that time. I mean, I guess, when did The Godfather come out is a question I should ask publicly.
What, 71, 73?
Sure. Okay, yeah.
Something like that, or early 70s. But as far as the mafia stuff was huge all the way through, because I think that a lot of mafia money helped get this stuff made, so to make the mafia look cool was just part of the thing. But the mafioso at the beginning of the movie, see if I can, was it Moretti? Or no, Moretti. Yeah. Maroni's from Batman. Dino Moretti, the I feel great guy. Loved it. Just a small part of the movie. He had some really great line readings. Enjoyed him tremendously. Lady Tanaka as a presence, who was played by Kim Miori, who I don't remember seeing in anything else beyond this movie, but
she looks familiar, I'll admit, but I didn't click on her name. I'll do the clicking.
Nice.
It's funny enough.
Yeah, she had the stereotypical dragon lady presence that is probably problematic, but I thought that she was pretty cool in this as a cartoon villain.
Yeah, I agree. There was some trepidation. I was like, are we? Because it was. As much as I like all the actors and the characters, they're not doing an incredibly deep dive. I don't know if we got a lot of proper representation.
No, they're all caricatures,
and they're
all caricatures.
And she's the Yakuza caricature.
A crime movie and a comic book movie, so you're gonna get just a bunch of except for Louis Gossett Jr. Even the Sam Leary lady detective was kind of a caricature of a lady detective from the time. I don't think that they had enough reason to have her in the movie because she wasn't involved directly with any of it. I guess she was just there to have somebody for Louis Gossett Jr. to bounce off of, but
Angie Everhard.
Yeah.
Who was still, she was maybe got the shortest shrift of anybody in this movie. She comes out a little strong, but she is trying to prove her existence. Basically, she's like, I'm supposed to be here as your partner, which he does come around on quick. I'll give him that. But yeah,
so we can push this movie out to 90 minutes,
right? Miori, also known from The Grudge 2, Metro, and Babylon 5. So.
Oh wow, I love The Grudge 2. That is, I don't really care for horror movies, and The Grudge 2 is one of my favorite horror movies.
Oh,
so.
all right. I'm barely making my way through because I didn't watch any of the Japanese versions of, was the other one the Ring, right? Ringu and yeah.
Ringu.
So I'll get to The Grudge too, I think, eventually.
Oh, I think.
Sorry,
you
said this wasn't on rails, and I keep very much pushing the show off rails.
you are good to go.
Okay.
So let me ask you this: what did you think? Because we just mentioned it earlier. What did you think about the actual action in this movie?
Yeah. So, and I'll take some of the blame for this because I've been on a pretty good action movie kick for some time now.
I've been following it. Yeah.
In fact, yeah. If you do frequent the Book Club for Movies cast or YouTube channel or whatever, you'll notice that there's been a little less as of late. I tried to fill in some of those gaps with my own trip down action movie lane, and I'm not going to say the action in this movie is the worst I've ever seen, but I think it's kind of the weakest point of the film. It really feels like, the script is good, everything looks good, everything sounds good, and then we get to the action set pieces and it's kind of like, whoa, like
it's like TV action.
Yeah, at best. I have seen better TV action even, I'll say. So it's just a little rough. It's maybe the obvious, weakest point of the film.
Yeah, there's some strange stuff going on, and Dolph Lundgren's action guy run is hilarious. He's got like a Steven Seagal thing going on. Why are you running like that? Maybe it's the tight pants. I don't know. But there's a scene, and it's a comic book movie, so this it's a comic book movie, so this shouldn't matter. But there's a scene in the final gauntlet where Moretti and the Punisher have never seen the movie Ronin, which is that you don't have two shooters right across from each other as you're as you're shooting guys. So they kind of like go down a hallway behind paper walls and kill all the people in the hallway, but they're right across from each other.
They are, exactly. Like not even a little bit, because they also walk into the hallway right after that, and you're like, oh no, they weren't offset at all. They were not
even a little bit.
Nope, they caught a few during that one.
I guess it's supposed to be fun, and maybe it would be had I not seen Ronin, but I did, so.
No, you're right. And that's kind of the thing, like top to bottom, the choreography, kind of, sense of space, just pick and choose what you want from action set pieces, and it's all kind of off kilter here. Mark Goldblatt does a good job, don't get me wrong. Like there are moments where he's directing stuff where I'm like, oh, he is directing stuff, not
he's
so
an
much
actual director,
like yeah, he knows what he's doing. It's very obvious. Except for, and I don't know, maybe they had a second unit for the action stuff, as does happen, but they did not have an action director for the action direction, let's say.
Dolph's like, I did martial arts for years, I got this.
And he does, luckily. I mean, that might be the saving grace, is that it's Dolph in the end.
Yeah.
Like he cuts a very imposing.
He's a big dude, and he was a karate champ in Europe, so he does have some experience. Do you remember the scene, and this is completely random, but these are some things that stuck with me. Do you remember the scene where they're going to try to find the kids, maybe, or maybe they're doing their first push against the crime family, but villains are coming down, ninjas are coming down slides in like the warehouse, and I'm like, why is this set piece? My note here was like, why the slide set piece? Fuck you, that's why.
Yeah, what did you call that slide in your neck of the woods? Over here, it was always the super slide when it made it to the local fair.
I don't know that we had a name for it,
okay,
but
right.
It was the silly slide in this movie.
Yeah, literally everybody knows what we're talking about, even if you don't. It's because it's at every local fair. It's just that it's got 2 or 3 waves in it. It's a big tall slide. They go down it on their knees with their guns while they're shooting.
And they send ninjas down the slide with their guns.
Oh,
and
man.
Why? There's like Star Trek doors in some of the scenes, and I'm like, why is this part of this thing?
Missed that. I have a soft spot for some of it, especially when it comes to action set pieces, because I'm just about to get into that kind of era where Jackie and Samo basically walk into a room and are like, okay, like what can we do? You know, very much involved in the environment and what they can do with it. So the fact that somebody maybe at some point went to a fair and saw the silly slide and was like, what if? And this is what we got. I still like it, I guess. It's just...
So I appreciate it because they're trying to inject some energy, some, I don't want to say fun, but some different energy into this fairly serious movie with stuff like shakes or some of those, like I said, the very cartoonish line deliveries, but like good cartoonish line deliveries that some of the characters give. And so I do appreciate that stuff. Yeah. There's some random... I think it's more indicative of the period that they interject this stuff into the action movie, but random one-liners from characters. I think there's a random one-liner from Dolph when he... you remember the torture scene? So he gets tortured. Why does nobody ever suffer the effects of torture after the fact in a movie? Because you have to keep the movie going, that's why. But he hooks the torturer up to the torture table and like turns the electricity on high and walks away, and I think he says, "Have a nice day," or something like that in that scene. And you're like, is that a good line, or does it matter?
Well, he does begin the scene with, "I'll try not to stretch this out," and then starts interrogating him while he's on a stretch table. Yeah. Which, I'm glad you mentioned this scene. When he walks away, the guy on that table is wearing a pair of red high heels. Did I miss
they're trying to establish that the guy is man, I'm peeking hard. They're trying to establish that the guy is a weirdo who loves torture, and part of that is in the 90s space or 89 space is putting high heels on him.
But did we see the high heels in any other scene except that? Did I miss them?
Nope, and I didn't even see them. So
straight up. One of them I think has fallen off already, but yeah, no, just walks away. He's got high heels on that stretch table. Which, there must have been some stuff cut. There was I had to laugh because when I was looking up the movie, there is an unrated cut of this movie, which I don't think I saw, but I
haven't seen it either.
Okay, yeah.
I did read that there was a longer cut, but I don't know anything about it or how to access it. I think they've shown it at like conventions and stuff like that.
All right. Yeah, that kind of stuff too, especially for older movies when that thing didn't exist. You know, they just found some old footage and they're going to put it back in no matter what. So that I'm kind of like, oh, I edge towards the artistic, the original authorial intent of the 1989 theatrical version
release
of The Punisher. Yes,
the 90-minute release of 89 Punisher. That but like I said, all that stuff is a good time. They have an obnoxious kid, which is a very 90s thing. The obnoxious kid gets slapped in the face super hard, which is always a big plus for me.
As a
the
father.
Bus full of scenes, the scene with the bus full of children struck me at the time in '89. I thought that was really interesting that they actually captured the Punisher, and that they're treating this character as a hardcore criminal. Like they're saying this guy has killed, they say 125 murders is what he's done, and they don't care about him rescuing the kids or the mafia stuff. They don't even know. All they know is that this guy is a mass murderer. Love that take. And then from the bus scene into Frank being captured, you get that amazing Louis Gossett Jr. scene where he's like Angela Basting is what I call it. He's acting hard in his scene, which completely puts him in completely outside of the movie.
Is this the knee to knee scene where they're in the cell and he's like, yeah, definitely. Which Dolph does Dolph, and it works though because he's also checked out. He's like, you know, they have this past, and he's like, I can't be your friend anymore, or however, you know, essentially that goes. But
yeah, Dolph's making some interesting choices on how he portrays the character because he's acting like he's like hopped up, like he's on smack or something. Because that's in his mind what an insane person, or how an insane person would be, or a disassociated person would be, and I guess maybe that's right, but it mostly just seems like he's on smack.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, method. You never know what you're gonna get sometimes.
So, without giving away the movie, basically the Well, I guess it doesn't matter. It's a movie from '89.
Yeah, give it away. Yeah, no. I think we're far enough into the show too here.
It starts with the Punisher's been on the streets. If you don't know who the Punisher is, Frank Castle's a comic book character. His family was murdered in the park by rival gangsters being at war, and so he's on this eternal quest for vengeance as a completely unhinged one-man killing machine, one-man vigilante against crime. So it opens with a mafioso getting off in the courts because the court system's corrupt or whatever, and Frank kills him, and in a fun scene, and then comes out to the front. This is daytime, broad daylight, in front of his mansion. The entire press of New York City or wherever they are out in front of the mansion, and they see Frank step out onto the front porch of the mansion or whatever.
For a picture. Yeah.
And then the house blows up. And Frank is still alive. They do that a bunch of times where he vanishes like Batman, where you're like, wait, hold on, wait. This man is like 8 feet tall. He doesn't just disappear, but somehow he still just disappears. The end of the movie, too.
Yeah, no, his whole intro, too. I have that. I mean, aside from his actual call out to Batman on the... I think when they ask him, like, who are you? Or he's getting tortured. Like, who are you? He's like, Batman, but he's joking, which we could talk about that meta for a while. But his whole intro is very Batman, right? Like, he's making his way around that mansion without being seen, but taking out all of these gangsters. And the main dude that you already mentioned, Brian Marshall, that what is the line again? I'm having a great time or whatever.
I feel great.
That's it, yes. Which, when I also heard that, was like, oh, I'm going to enjoy watching this guy for the movie. I wasn't. He dies during this scene. But, yeah, very, very Batman-like introduction there with the whole gangsters in the mansion.
Yeah, it sets up something interesting, and it works.
Yep.
And then we get to this plot where these two crime families, the Italian crime family, where their capo has just come back from Italy with all his new businessman ideas and his silk suits. It's like, we're going to change things. And then the Japanese mafia comes in and says, well, you can't, because we're going to take you over, and you can become our vassals or you can die. And that sets up this crime drama between the Italian families, who are completely incompetent for some reason, and the Japanese people, who are like elevated exotic beings, because once again, 90s. And this back and forth in which the Punisher is involved because the Italians, Don Moretti, wants the Punisher to rescue all the kidnapped mafia children, because that is part of the plot. Got to have some kids in there for stakes, I guess. And so the Punisher is used as a tool to try to rescue all these children.
Yeah, I mean, it connects to, he's having lost his family. You could see, again, Dolph plays it pretty, I don't want to say flatly. That sounds bad, but he plays it pretty subtly, let's say. By the end, he's not shedding a tear. You're not like, oh, he does have a heart of gold. He still plays it pretty roughly. You don't think he's turned over a new leaf necessarily.
Man, I really like the end too, and like not anybody but Dolph, because the alternate was Christopher Lambert. I don't like Christopher Lambert has more charisma, but I don't think that Christopher Lambert's necessarily a better actor. So I don't know that his delivery of some of those lines, like Dolph at the end, where Don Moretti, I'm going to assume that you'll either never watch this movie or you will, still in the spirit of fun, but Don Moretti and the Punisher's agreement kind of falls by the wayside at the end once the Punisher's helped him get what he wants. And so he tries to kill Frank, and he doesn't. Frank kills him instead. And then Frank comes face to face with Don Moretti's son and gives him the choice. He's like, you can kill me now, or you can live your life. But if you live your life as a criminal, I'm going to be an old-ass man coming to get you. Yeah. So I actually thought that was really good. I like that a lot. And like I said, if anybody but Dolph Lundgren had delivered that would have been powerful, I think.
Yeah, I like Chris Lambert, but I have I seen him in anything where he does kind of get past the accent?
And the
Yeah,
no,
I don't know if it works.
I don't really think so.
But
No,
Dolph.
my choice for Punisher in the era was Ken Wall. I don't know if you remember who Ken Wall is, but there was a show in the late '80s, early '90s called Wise Guy, and Ken Wall played an FBI agent who infiltrated the mob, several different mobs over the course of time. It was a really good show. It was the first full sex scene I ever saw on network TV, so it does stick with me too. But Ken Wall is just he's kind of looks like Chris Noth. He's a tall, black-haired Italian guy, and he was my Punisher of that era.
Too many wise guys on IMDb. What was the year for that show?
Oh, you could probably look up like 1990 maybe. Ken Wall. Kevin Spacey was one of the big players on that show in season 2. He played a James Bond style supervillain. Or season 3. But yeah, we didn't get Ken Wall. We got something more visceral instead, which I super appreciate. Not saying that this is a good movie. I'm just saying that it's a good movie for me. So, do you have any closing thoughts about 1989's The Punisher?
Wow, I mean, it's a good show when just kind of naturally make it through every single one of my notes that I had while watching the thing. But yeah, probably just overall, I get the whole for me,
Yeah.
It's good. It was fun. I feel like if you're into it for the Captain America Fantastic Four reasons, you might be disappointed somewhat, but you might also be, pleasantly surprised. So I was pleasantly surprised. I think the budget shows. I think you're right. This not really in the same league as those other movies, but it's worth a watch.
Yeah, like decent TV movie scale.
Yeah, for sure.
Somewhere between Albert Pune's Captain America and like the Trial of the Incredible Hulk.
Which I also have not seen yet.
You've never seen the Trial of the Incredible Hulk?
I keep seeing it pop up. It's funny. I can't not be off the rails. The Incredible Hulk TV, because that was like from the TV show, right?
There were 3 TV movies, yeah, and they were from the TV show.
That scared me as a child, like him changing into the Hulk for whatever reason. It was one of those things. I didn't grow up with a lot of horror movies, so I was probably a fancy child, but that scared me so bad that I probably am slow to pick it up. Just kind of still back in my mind somewhere. I'm like, oh, there's more on the TV because yeah.
Well, Ryan, let me tell you this. Since you no longer have the frilly cuffs and the frilly collar, I think you can handle it.
I'll give it a shot. Okay. Now I'm into it.
None of those are good, but they are all fun. Rex Reed, I think, was Daredevil in the Trial of the Incredible Hulk, and he was he was supposed to get a TV show out of it, and he didn't, which was the nature of a lot of products or projects like that at the time. But yeah, it's pretty decent. It's better than the first one, which was like Thor, and I forget what that one was called, but yeah, it was the Return of the Incredible Hulk, I think, was the first one. Then the Trial of the Incredible Hulk, and then the Death of the Incredible Hulk was the third one.
Okay, wow.
And you should check them out.
That show was huge. That much I do remember. That was it scared me as a child, and my parents continued to watch it. That's how good it was.
That's
we'll
the whole.
Go to bed.
This might damage our kid, but this is too good to let go.
That is must see TV at that point.
So Ryan, I super appreciate you coming on.
Yeah,
this was a good time for me.
Absolutely.
And hopefully next time we get together, Matt can be with us.
For sure. Because
I'm trying to be the on your podcast, you and Matt occupy very specific roles. And I think on my podcast, I'm probably more of the you than I am the Matt.
Okay.
So right now we're 2 the yous.
Oh.
And somehow it still works. So
it's
yes.
Okay. Yeah, we've made it work.
I'm very happy with that. Before we get out of here, is there something specific that you would like to plug?
Oh, man. I can in good conscience plug Book Club for Movies at this point. I don't know what our status is necessarily. We're on hiatus. I've paused the Patreon. So if you want anything more from me, I guess you can find me at Ryan_runs_. I've got a YouTube channel. Again, I will probably be doing a little bit more of the action stuff on the Book Club for Movies Patreon or not YouTube channel. So any of those spots, quite possibly.
Excellent. Well, I'm still listening, so whether it's on Ryan Runs or Book Club for Movies, you still have my ears.
Appreciate it.
For myself, Smack My Pitch Up has been on hiatus as well. Man, I am peaking. That is going to be a bugger to edit. Has been on hiatus as well. Like I told you earlier, we have a bunch of episodes in the can, so hopefully we can get those out at some point.
Can't wait.
But beyond that, you can catch me here. You can catch me on Twitter, as long as that's up. I'm Johnathanblade on all the things, though. Johnathanblade, or Jakey Old Broke Hobo Spider-Man at Johnathanblade on Twitter. Johnathanblade on several Mastodon instances and Instagram. And I think I have what was that one? Hive? A Hive account that I haven't logged into in 6 months.
Blue Sky.
Somebody send me a Blue Sky invitation, please.
Yeah, there you go.
So we can get our social media on, because I'm addicted. But beyond that, hopefully we can catch you in the next one. Hit us up on social media, listen to our podcast and all the things. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.